I hope you get how important of dramatic a point in human history you are living in. While there's like fire sirens blaring in the background all around you, on all sorts of levels. It's a dramatic time in human history. And the stakes, the chances are really important. Which way you're going to go. Because you are at a crossroads. With such dramatic change necessary, the forces who don't want to do the change, who want to keep things repressive and violent and destructive and poisoning and polluting and crushing of civil rights, like Republicans, and like Putin in Russia, that's why they're so simpatico. They don't want to give up. And they're all about also religious repression that's going on, that's justifying violence, abuse, destruction of your rights, religion. And they don't want to give up their little monies they've been getting off of you by believing in their myths and frauds. So they're all worked up. These Christian wackos in America and whatnot, they're all hysteric. Listen to them. Oh, no. And what is the key point? Oh, babies, babies, babies. Oh, geez, baby. This grotesque ignorance. Oh, babies, you just got more babies. Oh, geez, no abortion. No birth control. Oh, geez, no. Oh, gosh. Women can't decide their own decisions. No religion, Christian wacko religion is going to decide it for them. And they're trying to force that into legislation with all sorts of justifications to try and steer it away from what's the root? What's the real clarity of it? That it's religion trying to enforce their repression and making it legislation. Everywhere around is this drama. The environment itself, the whole planet, and therefore all the countries of the world. It's dramatic, folks. So of course, the forces of ugly, repression, racism, religious wacko, intolerance and dark age mentality. Republicans again. They're all over the place. They're trying to get, worked up and get the thing to stop. Block the change. Block this necessary, important change in human history that we have come to. This point in time, this crossroads that we have come to. And the agent in America, the agent of repression, denial, Republican Party. Republican Party, just look at them. So of course they have a Trump, the pinnacle of corporate criminality, tied to the mafia and all this crap. A racist. Of course. That's who Republicans are. And the vice president, who is it? The Christian wacko, Pence. You got the corporate criminality and the religious criminality. Repression, dark age. Together. Should be pretty obvious. And as you see on the world stage, this is, of course, you're seeing it through, like Putin in Russia. Repression. No civil rights. No freedom of expression. No open news media finding out what's going on. No intelligence. no education. Because everything about you getting educated, or doing a little discovery, having access to, wait a minute, having access to the World Wide Web of information. So of course China, Russia, every dictatorship is trying to censor the news you can get, the information you can get from the internet. This global communication system that's never happened before in human history. They don't want to give up all their billions and billions. They'd rather just poison and pollute the whole planet to death. And the Christian wackos and all these religious wackos, they'd rather destroy the whole planet in flames than give up their myths and fraud and repression. Their myth of God justification. Their myth. When you have intelligently outgrown. You've outgrown that religious hysteria. You don't believe in it. You get it. There isn't any God. There never was. It was just something made up by ignorant people who didn't know anything. But by instituting it and making it a fear factor, and remember there's a lot of fear out of ignorance. So being fearful of death was easy to say in a religion, to say, well, you do what we say, or else, when you die, oh boy, you're going to suffer. Oh, jeez, you're going to suffer. Oh, gosh. And so over the centuries, the fear, even though, step by step, intelligence is expanding, growing, developing, human science, human development of intelligence was growing and developing and pulling the rug out from religion all the time, for centuries here. So what did religion have to resort to? Things like the Spanish Inquisition, torture, repression, violence, overt things. Things you see today. Similar in a 21st century version that's still going on, like with these Christian wackos. The Islamic hysteria, justifying murder and violence. Because it's a threat to the religion. To religion. Like somehow they're a religion of myth, of fraud, of repression of women's rights, of repression of equal rights, homosexuals and anyone else outside of the religion. Repression, repression, repression. Somehow you're supposed to all tacitly agree because, oh geez, there's a God, or there's 50 gods, it doesn't matter. And this God, see, this fabricated fraud, he's judging. He's judging. Well, you get it. There isn't any God. Never was. You've outgrown it. This whole ignorant sham. That's a big threat to religion. All their money, think of it. Catholics, church, is having all sorts of problems right now. Because you're also finding out, hey, this whole sham of celibacy, which was just fabricated too. Humans made it up, right? You got to be celibate to be a priest and all that. And we've seen the outcome. This vast network of sexual abuse by priests. Everywhere there's the Catholic Church, there's sexual abuse by those priests. On a big scale. because they held on to some stupidity. Oh, you got to be celibate. Well, you can look in your history, Evidently, there was a time when, in the early stages, of course, a priest could be married. It could. But then the church found out that, wait a minute, they're going to have to be celibate. Because once they're celibate, when they die, the church gets any property that the priest might have accumulated. They got the money. They went after the money. They made it up. They made up everything. Look at the storylines. Oh, what was it? One of the things what's that mythic guy, the Jesus guy. And then one of his, it's a woman that happened to be one of the followers, right? And then somewhere about, 800 AD, in ignorant times, very ignorant times, somebody just changed the thing and said, well, she was a prostitute. They just made it up. They changed the story, made it up. And then in about 1600, this Bishop Uru or something like that, he was going to decide, well, how old is the earth? Well, he just looked at the book of myths. And he figured it out through the average age of people and generation, going back by the storylines of all these myths. And he said, well, that's 6,000 years old. Complete stupidity, complete ignorance, complete fabrication. It just made it up. Did he look at the earth once? Did he study the earth? Did he analyze the earth at all? No. He just looked at a bunch of old stories of ignorant people. And they're trying to tell you, oh, that's it, 6,000 years old. Oh, geez, It's so obviously lunatic stuff. And yet they're so getting pretty defensive about it, aren't they? These Christian wackos. Now, they always see Christians in particular, and we're jumping on Christians here because they sure deserve it. The Christians here, they were brutalizing Jews for over 1,000 years before the Nazis showed up. Throughout Christian areas, it was quite okay to brutalize Jews. Look at Spain. Spain drove them out. It was part of the Spanish Inquisition, too. 1,000 years or more before the Nazis showed up. So all that was well established, that's how things are done for Christians. Now, after this gross, just bizarre, unimaginable brutality and insanity, the psychopaths that are the Nazis, and still are today, by the way, of course. Look what happened. Christians had to create a new Jew of anger and fear. Became the homosexual. The homosexual was the new Jew. Now Christians are focused on it. They always got to have a boogeyman. They always got to have a fear. Oh, you got to be fearful. It's the homosexual. Oh, jeez. Oh, destroying society. Oh, geez. It says so right in our little book of myths. See? Look at Islam. You got these extremists. They've been busy killing each other for centuries. Were you a Shia? Are you a Sunni? And they can kill each other. Oh, no, how do? Well, the Catholics were busy murdering the Protestants in the same way. Ignorant stuff. And all of them, repression against women. Look at Islam. Islam is so obvious, they put the women in bags and say it's okay. Separate them out and make them dress in completely covered up in bags. Can't go anywhere. It's so obvious repression and not religion here in the 21st century. Now, there's quite appropriately, who are the voices, the factor of change in the world? Women, quite justifiably. They want equal rights. They want equal rights. In other words, they have woken up to the 21st century and they want equal rights justifiably. Now, you can find on the internet, as an example, even in Iran, very repressive Islamic state, right? Islamic women are standing up on these electrical boxes, they're about 4 feet tall or so, that are at intersections. And they're standing up there, and so traffic, is going by, and they're standing up there and they're taking off this headscarf thing that Islam forces them to wear. And they're taking off that headscarf and just holding it out so that cars driving by can see a woman standing there without a headscarf. Not going to do it. Not be forced to do it. It's women, justifiably. And here's an odd one. It's also homosexuals. The fear or the repression that has gone on against homosexuals through religion. Who's really against it? Religious wackos. Everywhere you're in, dramatic things that are on, gigunda scale, the whole planet, like the poison and pollution by corporate criminals like Trump and the Republicans, for destroying the whole environment just to keep them in the profit that they've been getting. And you got the personal level of women's rights, homosexual rights, equal rights for African Americans, still a big issue in America. And now Latino Americans. Who's against this? Republicans. Religion. Big drama. Global scale that you are living in. It's a very interesting time to be alive. And you have come out of the dark. You have come out from religious hysteria and all that crap. You don't buy it anymore. You get it. There's no God. There never was. You get it. You get that women and homosexuals and African Americans and Latino Americans and equal rights. You get it. You get it. You need clean air, clean water for you and your family. You need clean, healthy, organic food, free of pesticides and poisons. You get it that you shouldn't be using your tax money to clean up the poison and pollution of corporations. It's big though, folks. Look at these forces that are out there. This gigantic myth factory of fear of religion, hysteria, dark age justifications for violence. And all the money that actually supports them that comes from corporations. Because they want to keep deflecting away from you paying attention to them poisoning and polluting your whole planet. And they'll keep you occupied with, oh, geez, we got to be fearful of these immigrants. Oh, geez. Oh, gosh. And these homosexuals. Oh, God. Oh, no. Geez. And women. Oh, no. Equal rights for women. Oh, geez, no. You know? They got to push that through Fox News, Republican propaganda. Right-wing talk radio, that's all Republican crap too. Trump, all Republicans are like that. And it's on a global scale. Putin, Russia, China. Repression. Because the threat is of the threat to control. Domination over you by only a few. So that they can just establish, not equal rights, folks. They're not going to establish equal rights. They're going to establish dictatorship by any means, by any name. So they set the terms, and you just suffer. You just clean up their mess. You're forced to clean up their mess. You're forced to accept this dictatorship and police state terrorism to enforce their repression. The stupidity of the drug war is another one staring you in the face. Billions and billions of dollars going to criminal enterprises year after year. You got to get rid of it. You have to legalize and run the business. But there again, see, you pull the rug out from all that Republican propaganda and Republican money, then influence that has come from criminal gangs. Payoffs. It pulls the rug out from them. And all through Latin America. It pulls the rug out from them. Where they've infested into the government, the police, the military. That's big. But it's the only option is to legalize. So you can end that gross stupidity and police state terrorism. Justified police state terrorism. It's a dramatic time to be alive. There's some dramatic, important, and really for the potential of the earth and humans. This is our crossroads. This is us getting ready to, what are we going to do? Are you going to keep falling into the stupidity and violence of dictatorship and ugliness and repression and myth? Or are you going to cut them off? And are you going to come into the light and intelligence that you're ready to do, that you need to do? You're alive. This is your time. This is your world. This is your family we're talking about. This is your equal rights, your freedoms. This is an economy potential that is clean, environmentally healthy, as never before in human history. You're on the brink. See? You got a big choice. You're at the crossroads. The darkness is there. Ugly and violent, demanding ignorance and repression. But you have come into the light